Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So this is an intriguing topic. Bruno used some different words to describe different, you could maybe call them spiritual achievements. And I wanted to take a look at three of them and highlight some of the ways in which they're related and the ways in which they're different. This is a topic that's really dear to me because there's a lot of spiritual words and concepts floating around, and I find Bruno's way of, Bruno just explains things very simply, and I just really appreciate how he does that. So the first is enlightenment. Oh me, oh my, so many ideas about what that. So Bruno, he spoke about it at least once. I'm guessing he used the word more than once, but one instance I'm aware of can be found in the book A Revolution in Medicine, page 60, and that's book number 2. This book has got 3 books in one book. And so here we go. Man, even one who is enlightened, must get to know the spiritual power once again. Once again, he must learn how to use it for his own benefit, for the repossession and maintenance of divine order. Due to the progress of civilization, everyone has lost the ability to be natural and to mobilize and use the power within. My talks are aimed at teaching my fellow man to practice that primarily it is up to them to put their own inner life in order. Practically everyone must learn to realize that he has lost sight of the divine power. That is why I draw the attention of all my listeners to the natural powers that are within us. So, again, the first part. Man, even one who is enlightened, must get to know the spiritual power once again. Wow. So, apparently, from Bruno Gruning's point of view, even someone who's enlightened isn't complete yet. Enlightenment, from the point of view of Bruno Gruning's, isn't sort of the end goal, as it were. This is really significant and important because there's many teachers and many teachers' teachings out there today that say all that matters is you become enlightened, or you just have to attain this certain state of consciousness. But Bruno Gruning completely disagrees with that. Right here, he says, not only do we have to is a strong word, but not only is there a need to attain enlightenment, but there's also a need to understand how to use the divine force, how to put, as he said, put our lives in order. Because I've seen that so many times. I've met so many teachers who say they're enlightened and who other people think are enlightened, and their lives are actually a mess. And actually their health and bodies end up being a mess. So on the one hand, they may have attained a certain realization or enlightenment, but on another hand, in some ways, they're not fully living the truth. And here Bruno Gruning points out what's going on. They may have attained this certain state of consciousness, but they don't understand about the hailstorm, the healing stream, and putting their bodies and lives in order. So Bruno says a little bit more about this. This is from the book Powers of the Spirit, page 251. Bruno says, everything must be done here. And he's talking about here on the earth. Everything must be done here, where it must be accomplished through its own will or through its failings can be cleared away in love. For this reason, even a spiritually elevated master not just someone who's enlightened, but a spiritually elevated master who's been living in total isolation must be born once again. Don't in order to accomplish in selfless love while living in a normal community with flawed people everything that he once recognized as divine truth in his hermitage. Only a human being who withstands all temptations in daily life and does not allow himself to be brought out of the divine peace by anything, absolutely anything, can release himself from all attachments, and only then is truly redeemed. Okay. Wow. So a spiritually elevated master. So Bruno Gröning was adamant that we have to live the truth. And here he makes it really clear. You can live in a hermitage and attain a high spiritual state, but that's not the end of the journey. The end of the journey is to maintain that spiritual state and to live it, and he makes it very vivid, while living in the company of flawed human beings. It's very easy to be at peace and be connected to God when you don't have to deal with other messy people and the messy feelings that can bring up inside of you. So Bruno Gröning said, I want you all to be masters of life. He didn't call people to be enlightened, though certainly that's part of the path, to recognize the truth and to know the truth, but he called people to live it, and to live it while under difficult circumstances. And of course, his life shows us what that looks like. He said that he didn't give up the divine heavenly peace for anything, and yet, of anyone I know, he would have had every reason to lose that divine heavenly peace. So lastly, Bruno Gröning said, I have come to restore balance back to humanity, that you may become masters over matter. So if we're living in balance, according to Bruno Gröning, we're masters over matter. That's a pretty strong statement. So what that means is, if we're not masters over matter, that we haven't fully been restored back to balance yet. And Bruno Gröning was very adamant that we can do what he did. In fact, that there's no difference really between us and Bruno Gröning. He said, and I'll have to paraphrase here, I'm just a servant of God, which in fact you are too, if you only want to be, if you only do it. Believe this, dear friends, I am just a tool of the divine, which in reality you are too, yet you don't believe it. So until we're masters over matter, until we're able to do what Bruno Gröning did, until we're able to live the highest spiritual truths while being amongst flawed human beings, our work isn't done yet. As Bruno Gröning said, we're not fully redeemed. According to Greta Hausler, he also used the phrase fully entering into God. That it's only here, according to Greta Hausler, I haven't read anything of Bruno saying this, but I trust that she's reporting accurately. She said that Bruno said that it's only here on this earth, basically facing the temptation of evil, that we can experience fully entering into God. And here in the quote I read, some of that is explained, that um, facing all temptation and releasing ourselves from all attachment while staying connected to the divine heavenly peace. So there's many spiritual teachers out there today, and there's many spiritual teachings. And while there's some similarities, there's a radical difference. Bruno Gröning, many teachers out there, especially in non-duality, call people to experience a state of consciousness and then abide in that. Bruno Gröning calls people to that. He calls it, makes it really simple. He calls it the divine connection. He also uses some of the similar words, self-knowledge, recognizing that God is everywhere. But for Bruno Gröning, that is absolutely not the end of the path, whereas many contemporary teachers say that it is. Bruno Gröning says that we have to then live that truth and embody it and become, what he said, masters of life and masters of matter, and then free ourselves from all attachments. Now, all of this can sound really intense and really like a huge undertaking. And in one sense, it is. And on another sense, um, I know I've certainly felt overwhelmed at times thinking about these things. Becoming a master of life, becoming a master over matter, becoming what Bruno Gröning was, what in fact Bruno says I already am, but so we can really get into the head about it and try and figure it out and try and force it. But I don't believe that's the way. I believe the way is to tune in to this divine energy, to trust, and to treat this life just as Bruno Gröning said it is, that it's a school, and to enjoy life. I've been finding all these quotes lately of Bruno's that life is meant to be enjoyed and that God has ordained so much goodness for us. So while it's really important to strive, it's also really important not to get into our heads and get too serious about all of these things. As Bruno Gröning himself said, he who has lost their sense of humor has lost everything. So yes, Bruno is calling us to a vast path of mastery, and we don't need to get too serious about it. I hope this is helpful. Take care. So much love.